Welcome, everyone. So excited for the first bigger, badder, bolder, badass trainings of January. Super excited for the call last night. Thank you all for participating in that. It was a great kickoff to our month and our month of self-development. You know, a lot of people call network marketing a self-development program with a compensation plan attached. And we certainly know the power of self-development, training, and learning every single day. So that's what we're going to start with today, which is our topic: what is keeping you from winning?
I'm going to say it's commitment. I'm going to say it's discipline. I'm going to say it's consistency. I think those are the three things that I say that keep a lot of people from winning.
So like we said, we're going to move forward, and we're all going to forward think. We don't want to dwell in the past. We don't want to dwell on what hasn't worked in the past, but there is something to knowing what it is that kept you from winning in 2022. Because if you don't know what that is, how are you going to improve and change that for 2023? So one of the things that we think is probably the number one thing that keeps people from achieving what they really want in life is fear. And there's so many different kinds of fears. We're going to talk about 3 fears today and some tips and tricks on how to overcome those fears. But the first question is, what is this fear costing you? What did it cost you in 2022? You know, because we know what life looks like if you get rid of those fears. It looks like having $1 million business. It looks like traveling the world. It looks like spending time with whoever you want, whenever you want, no matter what the cost is. You know, we know what it looks like, but Michael Bernoff did a great job last night of talking to people about not their dream board. We know what life looks like when you are successful and when you do APL Go in a big, huge way. We have lots of examples, right? We see videos all the time of what that looks like, but we don't talk about what it doesn't look like if you don't do it. If you let this fear keep you where you're at or keep you moving backwards, right? He talked about the nightmare board. That really hit you.
Yeah, it keeps people from being great. And just imagine if you didn't have fear in your life, what could you accomplish? What kind of results are you producing right now because you got rid of fear? That's what, when Tina says, what is this fear costing you? It's definitely costing you your vitality. It's costing you your goals, your dreams. It's costing you a life that you want instead of a life that you're putting up with. That's what fear is. And that's what it costs you. And man, wouldn't it be so great if you could not have that?
So one of the biggest fears, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. We know this is a big one. Right? It's one of the number one fears. In fact, it's funny. It was listed on a checklist I was reading earlier as number 2. The number one fear is fear of public speaking, which, you know what? People would rather die than speak in public, but that's okay. You know why? Because since 2020, that's changed a lot. Very few people now are having to do any kind of public speaking because everything's online and on Zoom, and the screen seems to make people think it's not as scary, right? So excellent. So fear 1 is out of the way. Let's talk about the fear of failure.
So most people don't do things because they don't think they're good enough. They don't have the tools or the skills in order to accomplish something. And so they fear that they're going to fail at it before they even give it a shot. But they don't realize that failing is how you learn. You know, this is the one thing that makes you be better and get better is to try something. But if you're too afraid to try something because you're so afraid of failure, then to me, that makes you stuck and unable to move forward.
So something you can do to get over this fear of failure is just redefine it. Right? Failure is not the opposite of success. It's not you're either successful and living in a mansion or you failed. That's right. That's not what we're talking about here. Failure is actually the opposite of trying. And as long as you're trying and you're moving forward, you're not failing, right? You have to separate your failure from your self-worth. Remind yourself that failing at a task doesn't make you a failure. It just means that this particular thing you tried didn't work the way you wanted it to work. And you got to look at it as a valuable learning experience. People who are not trying are failing, right? If you're consistently trying something new, you know, one of my favorite shows is Friends. No secret there, but I love the scene where Pete talks about his company he created. He's a multi-millionaire, and he says that I think his software was like software number 512, and he said software number 1 burnt my dad's garage down. Software number 2 blew up in my face. Software number 3, but took 500 attempts, 512 to get the magic formula he needed. And that's what it's going to take here. As long as you're trying, right, you're not failing. Be optimistic and realistic. Set goals in small, easy to achieve steps, and then celebrate each step along the way. That will alleviate your fear of failure, because if you're succeeding in the 12 steps it takes to accomplish this big task, right? You're trying and you're succeeding. That's not failure. So it really is just a matter of how you look at it in your brain. And if you redefine in your mind the word failure, I think you'll have a much easier time getting past it.
Fear of what people think of you. All right, another big one. All right, this really has people playing small in life because they're so afraid of what somebody's going to say. Oh, are you part of one of those things? Well, I confidently said, yes, of course I would. I wouldn't be part of anything else other than what I do. Why would I do that? Right? I confidently say that because I don't care what people think. And if I did, I wouldn't be here. I would have given up on a lot of the dreams and goals I've already accomplished if I was worried about what people might think of you. But you can only control yourself and not what people think of you. And you can only control what you think of you. If you put that first and foremost, that's the most important thing you can do. It matters what you think of yourself. Even Michael Burnoff said last night, don't tell somebody you're proud of them. Tell somebody that they should be proud of themselves. So what does that tell me when he says that last night? You should put yourself first, and you should think of yourself and have that be the most important, not what other people think of you, because you cannot control that. And they're going to think of something about you no matter what. So why not be great?
You know, and it's a matter of who's paying your bills. Because I think about this every time I hear a negative comment about myself or Kelly, I think that person doesn't pay my bills. They don't know. Why would I listen to somebody whose opinion of me has zero impact on my personal life, my finances, my family, right? The things that I deem important. If they have zero to contribute to that, why does it matter what they think? Right? And I will say this, I'm gonna get real personal here. You should see some of the things that we've seen written and said about us, right? From some of you guys. And here's the thing, you guys are certainly allowed to talk amongst yourself and say whatever you want about whoever you want. But you writing to each other that my voice is annoying, or Kelly's too harsh on people. Do you think that that changes? Do you think that we read that stuff and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that she thinks my voice is annoying. I better stop doing trainings for the team. What would it look like if we took all those things that we've heard about ourselves and stopped doing what we did because of it? It might annoy 2 people and benefit 100 people. So be very careful who you listen to and what they say, because unless it's impacting you, your family, the people you love and care about, your team or your paycheck or your ability to pay your bills, you need to just wipe it out of your mind. You need to not listen and not care. Think about why you started this business in the first place. We've done this example so many times over the years. Look at some of these testimonies, right? Building your confidence in our product, our testimonies, our business will make you care what other people think less and less and less and less. Because I've read multiple testimonies on a lot of our trainings. And if one person in that chain of command, right, or chain of sponsorship cared about what people think, that life wouldn't have been changed. And that's the stuff that you got to remember in your mind when you're finding yourself in fear of what people might think of you. Instead, think the things people are going to say about you when you change their lives, because that holds way more water, in my opinion, than what people will think if you don't.
I was going to say that most people are out there worried about what people are thinking about themselves too. So much so that they're too prideful to even ask for help or let somebody know that they're in a situation they need help, whether it's health or finance or whatever it is. And guess what? What if they just said something and you were there and you shared with them a possible answer? But people are afraid of what people are going to think, especially when they're not on the top, at the top of the world, and the height of success. You know, people only think that you could talk about stuff if it's that. You know, the regular stuff is not acceptable. Well, of course it is, because 99% of people are in the regular means of life and struggling, right? So that's the common place to talk about something. And, you know, if the more you share about what's going on, the more you ask questions, the more it's going to free other people up to be safe to talk about what's going on with them, so that you can have a conversation. So let's move on to the last one, fear of rejection. Nobody likes this one. It causes people to not go on dates. It causes people to stay at home and be single. So, and it's because they don't want to be rejected. And here's the problem. The problem is, man, you know, if you knew that by talking to 100 people, that one of those people, you know, possibly a couple of them were going to amount to $1 million because you talked to them, how many people would you talk to? Are you going to be worried about the first 99 people that said no? Because the 100th person could be the one that's, man, you'd have to go through the 99 just to get to that 100, but would it be worth it? Yes, of course it would. But some people won't do that because they're so afraid of what was going to happen. They're so afraid of rejection. So let's narrow it down.
Yeah, narrow down the fear. What part of it is the part that scares you? Is it the actual word no? Is it what the no implies? Because there's ways to get past that. I would say the best thing you can do is go out and say the word no 10 times. Now, every time you say the word no to somebody or something, are you judging them? Are you spewing hate upon this person? Or are you just not interested in what they have to offer at that moment, right? We talk about the waitress in the coffee shop. You go in, you sit down at the booth and she says, would you like a cup of coffee? And you say, no, thanks. She does not run to the back of the room crying her eyes out, upset because you said no to a cup of coffee. Now, let's read, we don't really talk about this part of it, but let's read the situation first. If you came in the coffee shop and you were bundled up in a ski jacket with a scarf up around your face and your teeth were chattering, and she asked you for coffee, is it more or less likely that you're going to say yes? It's more likely, right? Now, if you had just come in from a jog and you were wearing a tank top and shorts and sweating profusely and your face was red and you were panting, and she asked you for a cup of coffee, are you more or less likely to accept the cup of coffee? Less likely, right? So reading the room, reading that person in front of you is going to make your chances of hearing the word yes or no a lot different, right? So what do you need to do? Ask more questions. If the fear you're dealing with is the fear of rejection, you're not asking enough questions from people, because the more questions you ask, The more information you have about what they are or are not looking for in life, right? The more likely you're able to ask that closing yes or no question, and they're going to answer with a yes, because you know what they're looking for. If you have no idea what they're looking for, your chances are really, really high they're going to say no. So there is a way to deduce the chances of them saying no by finding out more about them, asking more questions, right? Most of the time, no means I'm not ready yet, or I don't have enough information. So how do you get them information? By asking them questions and then answering those questions with the information you have. And the more you know, and the more you answer questions, when it comes time to get that closing question out there, you're upping your chances of getting a positive decision because you already have asked them everything relevant, right? And no is just a word. They're not rejecting you. They're just rejecting the offer of what you're asking at that moment. If the exact same person that came in the door, sweating, red face, in workout clothes, the next day walked in the parka with the scarf around their head, teeth chattering, you're asking the same question to the same person, but in two different instances. One of the times they're going to say no, one of the times they're going to say yes. So all you need to do is create the situations and ask the questions based on reading that person's body language, the questions they ask you, the information they have, stories about their life. The more you get to know them, the better your chances of hearing the word yes. And the more you hear the word yes, the more that fear of rejection just goes right out the window.
My final thing is ask yourself this. Have you ever told somebody no? And did you say no because you didn't like them, or you didn't like the way they looked, or like it probably didn't even cross your mind? You probably just said no because it just was a no, right? It didn't. There's nothing other than in that moment other than you just said no, just like you said no, I don't want a cup of coffee, right? It doesn't mean you didn't like anybody, you didn't like that person or anything like that. There's no story attached to it except for you just said no. And so just remember that you're saying no to people all the time, and they might be taking it as you think they're the worst person in the world, or you're making something up about them. So you might want to add something to your no just to make them feel good, but know this, that when's the last time that something worked out perfectly the first time, and somebody said yes the first time, and somebody was like ready to go the first time, or was it like the 12th time, or the 4th time, or the 8th time? And in some cases, the 20th time, because really, usually the first answer, anybody's coined answer is no, because they don't have enough information to say yes yet. So just know that no is just not enough information. And it's your job just to provide the information and keep asking questions. And the more you do that, the more you're going to edge towards getting that yes, or at least giving them the information they need to know so they can get to a yes, right? I'm in that situation right now, but we'll explain that another time. But here's what I hope that you guys take from this is, because the new year, and some people are saying like, okay, yeah, I've heard some of this before. It works, it doesn't work. It sounds pretty basic. Yeah, it is basic. It's actually super basic. It's super easy. If it was difficult, none of you guys would be here. Not even me, because I don't want to do anything difficult. I'm sure you guys don't want to. That's why we want to just break it down in the simplest form as possible and make it the easiest possible, because wouldn't that be great, right? Just to keep it simple and easy, because when you do that, you're training your new people, you're bringing on your team to do the same thing that you're doing. So everything we're doing from here on out, just know that we're training everybody behind us. And if we keep it consistent, just like, we are hoping to right now from the get-go, the start of the year, right? We're setting the pattern off right, I say, and let's just continue that and see what we can do in terms of results and doubling them or tripling them from last year. I think we can do more than that.
Yeah, so the homework assignment tonight is this. Think about 2022 and write down what was the fear that kept you from achieving more. kept you from achieving exactly what you want, kept you from achieving your goals in 2022? What is that fear? And then write down 5 things you can do today, this week, this month, right now, to get past that fear. So thanks for jumping on with us today, and we'll see you on the training tomorrow.